So yesterday we discussed about the permanent settlement and the default by the zamindar, why he was not able to pay the revenue in time. There were many reasons which we discussed yesterday. Now we will discuss the next topic, that is the jotdar. So I told you that sometimes the riots were not paying the revenue deliberately because they were instigated by somebody. They were invoked by somebody because he wanted to put the zamindar in trouble, and that was an influential person in the rural area. So who was that powerful person in the rural area? He was the jotdar. कौन था वो? Jotdar. So jotdar was the person who used to instigate the peasant against the zamindar so that they do not pay the revenue in time and zamindar should remain in trouble. So that was done by the jotdar. So here we will read about the jotdar. Who was he? He was the powerful figure in the village. He was very powerful. Generally, he used to be headman of the village. He was having a vast estate of land, though it was less than the zamindar, but still he was having a vast estate of land, and he was having many under riots under him. Controlled local trade. He was also a local trader as well as he was also working as the money lender. So in the time of crisis or in the time of need, the farmers used to go to whom? He used to go to the jotdar. So jotdar used to be a very powerful figure in the rural Bengal. He was also deliberately delaying the payment. Why he used to deliberately delay the payment? What was the reason? Because he wanted to see the zamindar in trouble. As a result, he used to ask the peasant not to pay the revenue in time. Then he was also the commanding figure in the village. A large part of their land was cultivated through the sharecroppers. Who used to be the sharecropper? Who is called as the sharecropper? कौन होते हैं sharecropper? Anyone among you? Generally, these used to be the ordinary peasants, and they used to cultivate the land of the rich peasant, and whatever crops used to be there, that used to be shared between these two parties. Means, suppose 50% was given to the zamindar and 50% was kept by the sharecropper itself. So that was the kind of system, and these were called as the sharecroppers. So they used to work as the adhyar, means they used to take half of the crop. Pragadars, these are various names which are used for the sharecroppers, who brought their own clothes. They used to labor in the field of the jotdar and handed over half of the crop to the jotdar, and rest of the crop used to be taken by these sharecroppers. It means these sharecroppers were dependent upon the zamindar, isn't it? Were they dependent upon the zamindar or not?
Yes, sir.
Because they had no land of their own, and for cultivation of land they had to take the land from the jotdar. So jotdar was having a control over these sharecroppers. As a result, they used to obey whatever the orders were given by the jotdar, and they could be easily instigated by the jotdar against the zamindar. The produce to the jotdar after the harvest, they used to give long judicial process. If the zamindar used to prosecute these sharecroppers and the jotdar, that I told you that the judicial process was quite long, so it was not easy for the zamindar to prosecute these sharecroppers and the jotdar. And they also resisted the effort of the zamindar to collect the revenue. When the team of the zamindar used to come to the village to collect the revenue, generally these sharecroppers were instigated by the jotdar and they used to be mobilized against the zamindar, and many farmers used to rise against the zamindar. As a result, it was a problem for the zamindar to collect the revenue. And since zamindar's power was very less nowadays because he was not having local police and justice, as a result, he could not control the sharecroppers and the jotdar. So jotdar always a trouble for the zamindar. Now you can see that there is an image. This is the image of a village, rural area of that time. This is a painting. And this house is the house of a jotdar. Whose house is this? Of a jotdar. Because it's a big house, and surrounding this house there are hutmats, and these huts are of the ordinary farmers. So jotdar used to be a little bit richer than the other people, and he used to control the village economy. This is village scene which was painted by George Chenery in 1820. Next is the resistance of Zamindar. Now, Zamindar was trapped by the Jotdar as well as the company. Company wanted to decrease the power of the Zamindar, and Jotdar and other peasants used to disobey the Zamindar because he was powerless. They wanted to see the Zamindar in trouble. So Zamindar was trapped from all sides. Now, what way was adopted by the Zamindar to escape from this situation? That we will discuss over here. So he also found some ways and means through which he could resist the effort of the company as well as the Jotdar. First of all, what he did, he transferred the Zamindari to his near and dear ones. Who were the near and dear ones? Who are called as the near and dear ones? Can you tell me?
Family and friends.
Family and friends. So generally the
Means
Zamindari of that Zamindar used to be transferred to the near and dear ones, and generally these used to be the female of the house. These used to be the female of the house, and these female having that Zamindari transferred to them by the Zamindar. And why he used to transfer his Zamindari to the female member of the house? Because at that time there was a rule in the company that the property of female could not be auctioned. कि औरत की प्रॉपर्टी की ऑक्शन नहीं होगी. इसके जमींदार क्या करता था, अपनी लैंड को अपने घर की किसी लेडी के नाम करवा देता था ताकि उसकी ऑक्शन ना हो, जमींदारी हमेशा उसके पास बनी रहे. So that was one way out. Second is unpaid balance were allowed to accumulate. Sometimes zamindars do not want to pay the money to the company, and they used to allow the balance to be accumulated. वो जानबूझ के जो है पैसा इकट्ठा करते रहते थे, टाइम पे रिवेन्यू जमा नहीं करते थे, लगातार चाहते थे कि पैसा इकट्ठा हो जाए, उनके खिलाफ बहुत सारा जो है रिवेन्यू उनके ऊपर इकट्ठा हो जाए, और वो डेलिबरेटली भी जो है पेमेंट नहीं करते थे. क्यों नहीं करते थे? बिकॉज fictitious sale of the zamindari used to be organized by the zamindar. Zamindar generally used to send his servants and his faithful people in that auction, and generally fictitious sale used to be there. That we have already discussed, the sale of Bardwan. What kind of sale was it? Do you remember the sale of Bardwan? Hello? क्या था उसमें?
95% जो थे वो उसी के मिनिस्टर्स थे.
Yes.
परचेज किया था.
Suppose the auction was there which was organized by the company, but the bidder who used to come there to purchase the land, maximum people were the people of the zamindar, and they used to give the highest bid. सबसे ज्यादा पैसे की जो बोली लगाते थे वो जमींदार के अपने आदमी लगाते थे. And this is a rule in an auction that who used to be the highest bidder, the land was given to him. और उसका कुछ मनी, पूरा मनी नहीं लिया जाता ऑक्शन के अंदर, कुछ पैसा उसको जो है सिक्योरिटी के तौर पे देना पड़ता था, बाकी पैसा वो बाद में जमा करवा सकता था. इस प्रकार से वो जमीन उसकी हो जाती थी. एंड फॉर डिपॉजिटिंग द रेस्ट ऑफ द मनी ही वाज गिवन एम्पल टाइम, उसको काफी टाइम मिलता था. बट ही नेवर रिटर्न बैक टू द कंपनी. थोड़ा सा पैसा जमा करवा के, सेल अपने नाम करवा के, वो कभी दोबारा लौट कर नहीं आता था जमीन लेने के लिए, बाकी पैसे देता ही नहीं था. इस प्रकार से कंपनी कुछ टाइम तक वेट करती थी. बाद में कंपनी क्या करती थी, वो जमीन वापस उसी जमींदार को दे देती थी जिसकी होती थी, और दोबारा से सेल ऑर्गेनाइज करने का काम करवाती थी, लेकिन उसको काफी लंबा टाइम लगता था. इन दिस वे द जमींदारी ऑलवेज यूज्ड टू रिमेन विद द जमींदार. इज दैट क्लियर? So that kind of sale used to be called as the fictitious sale. So it was also organized by the zamindar. In this way, he was able to control his zamindari. Then Benami purchase. What is called Benami purchase? Like
बिना नाम के.
बिना नाम के. नाम मीन्स नाम फिक्टिशियस होते हैं, उस नाम का कोई आदमी होता ही नहीं है. Just suppose if I have a land of my own, but I have named it to somebody else, और उसको पता ही नहीं उसके नाम जमीन है. जमीन किसकी है? मेरी है. तो वो बेनामी संपत्ति होती है, बेनामी प्रॉपर्टी होती है. तो बेनामी is a Hindi word which literally means anonymous. The person is not known to anybody. It's a term used in Hindi and several other Indian languages for transaction made in the name of a fictitious or relatively insignificant person where the real beneficiary remains unnamed. Means suppose if I have a house and I have named it somebody else, but that person who is not known to anybody, and I am having the control of this house. It means this is Benami Sampatti. Rayos registered the entry of outsider. If somehow another zamindar or another person out of his zamindari used to purchase the land, if the sale was not fictitious, and if really a purchaser comes in the auction and if he was able to purchase the land, then he had to come to that land to take control of that land. But in that case, the riots who used to work in that land or in that village, they used to resist the outsider. They used to resist the outsider. They did not allow the outsider to come there. And generally, Lathiyals used to be called by the zamindar and they used to be the outsider. As a result, outsider was having an afraid to purchase that land. In that case, the zamindar used to remain with the same zamindar. By the beginning of the 19th century, the depression in prices was over. Now the prices were very low at that time when permanent settlement was introduced. But after some time, the prices recovered slowly and as a result prices increased and depression was over. So the farmer was now able to get more prices of his crop. Now paying the revenue was not a problem for the farmer. As a result, he started paying regularly his revenue. So revenue payments were made flexible. When the company felt that the revenue rate is very high and sunset law is the main reason for the default of payment, the company also made its term and conditions flexible. As a result, the revenue collection was not a problem after some time. And in this way, Zamindar recovered from the situation which was created by the company and the Jotdar. Zamindar finally collapsed. Zamindar remained in their position till the time of 1930. Zamindars remained in the same position of controlling the village and the property up to the 1930, and in 1930 there was a great depression worldwide. There was a depression in the economies of the world. As a result, Zamindari finally collapsed in 1930. But till that time, Zamindar remained a dominant position in the rural Bengal. Is that clear? Have you understood how the Zamindar used to resist the effort of the company?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, fifth report. This is an important report which was published by the company at that time. It is called as the fifth report. As its name indicates fifth, it means it was the fifth report in the series. It was submitted to the British Parliament in 1830. So this was the report upon the revenue system of Bengal. Because at that time many zamindars, jotdars and farmers used to send their appeal or their plea to the government to make the rate of revenue flexible, and after that the government set up a commission who published a report, and generally these reports were published by the company after a frequent interval. So this was the fifth report which was produced at that time and it was submitted in British Parliament in 1813. And why these reports were produced? Because British Parliament wanted to keep an eye on the company's affair in India. As a result, they used to send the surveyor who used to produce the report. because they wanted to know whether the company is functioning well or not, because the monopoly of the trade with India to the British East India Company was given by the British King. So British Parliament always used to keep an eye on the company's affairs, and frequently reports were produced, and this is also one of that kind of report. It was having 1002 pages, of which over 800 pages were appendices that reproduced petitions of the Zamindar. So maximum part of the report is contained by the petitions of the Zamindar and the riots. Why they used to petition? They used to petition for the less revenue rate, that the revenue rate must be flexible. Reports of collector, who used to be the collector at that time in that district, they used to produce their report also of the different districts. Statistical table of on revenue returns, that how much revenue was assessed and how much revenue was collected, that was also published in that report. Opposition of the monopoly. Now this report was widely discussed and debated in the British Parliament, because there were many people in the England also who wanted to end the monopoly of the British East India Company with the Indian trade, because British East India Company was also a private company, and there were many private competitors of the British East India Company who wanted to control the trade with India. They also wanted their share in the trade with India. So they wanted that the monopoly of the British East India Company must be ended. So they used to oppose the efforts which were made by the company. And this was the report which provided them a base to oppose the British East India Company. So opposition of the monopoly of East India Company was discussed, and it was raised in the British Parliament, and they also blamed the company for their misrule, that the company is not ruling properly, and maladministration, means there is a lot of corruption in the company's work, and really there used to be a lot of corruption also, because there were many governor or many officers in the British East India Company who used to be very corrupt. So that was also discussed in the British Parliament. Appointment of inquiry committee. After discussing these things, they appointed an inquiry committee who would inquire in the function or in the administration of the company, and they also published the report. And fifth report is also one of such kind of report. Reports cannot be accepted uncritically. So many data have been given in the fifth report, but all the data are true. We cannot be sure about that, because generally the reports are also biased. Who are the producer of the report? They generally exaggerate the data. Sometimes they decrease the seriousness of that data. So generally reports cannot be accepted uncritically. It cannot be believed on the face value. Rather, it has to be thought properly before accepting the fact of the report. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Rest of you will keep your mic mute. Now, Francis Buchanan. He was a surveyor who came to India. Who was Francis Buchanan? He was a surveyor who came to India, and he was nominated by the British to survey the area of Raj Mahal, or the part of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. Francis Buchanan was a physician. He was a doctor who came to India and served in the Bengal Medical Service. And he served between 1794 to 1850. The photo of Francis Buchanan. He was surgeon of the Governor General of India, that is Lord Wellesley. So Lord Wellesley used to be the Governor General at that time, and this one was the trustworthy person of Lord Wellesley, and he was aware about his intelligence. So he requested him that he undertook a survey. In the jurisdiction of the British East India Company, means the area which is under the control of British East India Company, that must be surveyed by the Francis Buchanan. So he was given that task. Buchanan's general give us tantalizing glimpse of hill fox. So he surveyed the area of Raj Mahal Hill. Where is Raj Mahal Hill? Where is Raj Mahal Hill? Can you tell me? Raj Mahal Hills are in the area of Jharkhand. And why it is called Raj Mahal Hill? Because earlier there used to be the capital of Magad Empire. We discussed about the Magad Mahajanpada. So Magad Mahajanpada was having its initial capital at Rajgaha or Raj Mahal. So these hills are those hills where the capital used to be. And this hill was inhabited at that time by the tribal people. So that was surveyed by Francis Buchanan, and it was surveyed in early 19th century. And a detailed survey report was produced by the Francis Buchanan. And he was a keen observer who observed everything or every raw material or every precious thing which was available in that area, and he produced a detailed report upon that area, and the company used to make its policy based on the report which was produced by Francis Buchanan. Now what kind of report he produced, that we will discuss. Now you can see that this is the image of Raj Mahal Hill. This is Raj Mahal Hill. It is surrounded by the forest all around, and this is a painting which was painted by William Hodge, and this is also called as the jungle territory. And this is an aqua tint. So this painting is called as an aqua tint. Aqua tint is a special kind of painting which was generally produced on the copper plate with the help of the chemicals. So it was a fine painting which was produced by the William Hodge in 19th century. Now, Francis Buchanan wrote about the tribal people of that area. Now, who were the tribal people? The tribal people used to be the Pahadiyas. Who used to be the tribal people? Pahadiyas. Why they were called as the Pahadiyas? Can anybody tell me why they were called as the Pahadiyas?
Because they live on Pahad.
Yeah, they used to live in Pahad and they were dependent on the Pahad, so they were called as the Pahadiyas. What kind of living they were having, that we will discuss here. They used to practice the shifting cultivation. What is shifting cultivation? They used to work on a particular area after burning or cutting the forest, and when the land used to become unfertile, they used to move from that area to another place, and again they used to do the slash and burn, and they start cultivation over there. So this sort of farming is called as the shifting cultivation, which was practiced by the Pahadiyas. So it's a kind of primitive farming. Primitive farming means it's a kind of not a modern farming. It was a primitive farming. They used to regularly raid the field of the settled agriculturalists. The area was also surrounded by the settled agriculturalists. Means there were some agriculturalists who used to settle at one place. They were not practicing the shifting cultivation, and the Pahadiyas at times used to raid their field and they used to loot whatever used to be available in that field. They used to cut the crops of these people. They collected mahua. This is the image of mahua flower for food. It was a food item for them. They also used to rear up the silk cocoon and produce the silk. They also used to produce the resin, and they also used to collect the wood from the forest, and they used to produce the charcoal which used to be sold in the market. So that was a kind of living of the Pahadiya people. The undergrowth that spreads like a mat below the trees and the patches of green grass that covered the land that left fallow provided pasture for the cattle. And the land used to be full of grass, and that grass used to be the base of the animal rearing. They used to graze their animal upon that grass. So they were also the animal rearer. The life of the Pahadiya as hunter, shifting cultivator, food gatherers, like they used to collect the mahua flower. They also used to produce charcoal. Silkworm rearer was thus intimately connected to the forest. And all these things cannot be done without the forest. So we see that all the life of the Pahadiyas used to be entirely dependent upon the forest. And without forest, they cannot live. So forest was very important for these people. Now, they lived in the hut mats. There used to be huts under the trees of tamarind. Tamarind means imli ka ped. and rested in the shade of the mango trees. So that was also a kind of their living. They considered the entire region as their own and resisted the arrival of the outsiders. They were having the monopoly on that region. They did not allow anybody outsiders to live at that place, and generally these outsiders were raided by the Pahadiyas and they used to loot these outsiders. Sometimes when the merchants used to cross that forest, they used to pay the money to the Pahadiyas so that they can have a safe journey. So that was a kind of life of the Pahadiyas. Their chief maintained the unity of the group. So that was a kind of Kabila, and there used to be a chief of the Kabila, and he used to settle the disputes. He was like the headman of that Kabila and led the tribe in the battle with other tribes. There used to be frequent battle among the tribes also. So generally he used to command each tribe in that kind of battle. And he also used to raid along with his men uh, upon the plain area which were cultivated by the other farmers. Now you can see that this is the image of that area. Entire area is surrounded by the forest. Tamarind trees are there. These are the hut mats which were generally made by the Pahadia people and they used to live in these hut mats. This is an image of a Pahadia which was produced at that time again by the William Hodge. This is also an aquatine. So that kind of territory used to be there. Now, but after the coming of the Britishers, a lot of change took place in the life of the Pahadiyas that we will discuss over here. The Zamindars on the plain had to often purchase peace by paying a regular tribute to the hill chief. The Zamindar who used to cultivate the land around these Rajmahal hills and their land was generally raided by the Pahadiya and as a result they used to pay the money to the hill chief so that they do not raid the area of the Zamindar. So in this way they used to get the money from the Zamindar and it was a kind of bribe. Traders similarly gave a small amount to the hill folk for the permission to use the pass controlled by them. So the hilly area was there and there were many passages across that hilly area and the traders generally used to move on that passages and they generally used to pay the money to the Pahadiya chiefs so that their goods are not looted by the Pahadiya people and they used to ensure that their goods were not plundered by anyone and this could be ensured only after paying the money to the Pahadiya chief. The British encouraged forest clearance. Now British was not of that kind of role and they did not like the Pahadiyas to be there. They wanted that entire forest must be cleared and it has to be converted into the agricultural field so that they can get the more revenue. So they asked the Zamindar and the Jotdar that they should turn the forest area into the cultivable land and rice fields should be there instead of the forest. And Zamindar and Jotdar started that work. So the British extension of settled agriculture was a necessity to enlarge the source of land revenue. As I told you that by converting the forest into the agricultural land, they can get more revenue. They can produce the crop for export and these export was necessary for the Britishers because there were industries in England which required raw material and that raw material used to go from India to England and establish the basis of the settled ordered society. They wanted that Pahadiyas are not controllable. As a result, the settled society should be there, which could be controlled by the rule and by the local police. So they wanted that the forest must be cleared and there should be agricultural land. So that was the policy of the British. Now, what changes took place because of the British policy in the life of Pahadiyas that we will discuss here? As settled agriculture expanded, the area under forest and pasture contracted. Pasture land was reduced, forest was cut down, so the life of the Pahadiyas became difficult. This sharpened the conflict between the hill folk and the settled cultivators. The former began to raid settled villages. Again, Pahadiyas now started raiding the village. They used to loot the people, they used to kill the people, and carrying away food grains and cattle along with them. Exasperated colonial officials The colonial officials were trying to suppress them, but they were not be able to suppressing the Pahadia chief and the people. In 1770, the British embarked a policy of brutal repression. Now they started killing the Pahadia people. They were hunted down from the forest. They were found from the forest, and instantly they were killed. So a large number of the Pahadias were killed by the Britishers in 1770s. Then in 1780, they started killing the Pahadias, but Pahadias became more aggressive. So the collector of Bhagalpur, his name was the Augustus Cleveland. He made a compromise with the Pahadia chief and he paid a tribute to the Pahadia chief that they should live in peace. Pahadia chiefs were given an annual allowance and made responsible for the proper conduct of their men. Now Pahadia chief was given the responsibility that he should control his men so that they do not become troublesome for the company and the zamindar. But the Pahadia chief refused the allowances because if a Pahadia chief used to get the revenue or get the allowance from the company, he was considered to be a traitor. तो जो है पहाड़िया ट्राइब जो है एक विद्रोही के तौर पे लेती थी तो ब्रिटिश से पैसा लेता था एंड इन दिस वे द पहाड़िया चीफ यूज टू लूज हिज क्रेडिबिलिटी इन दी ट्राइब और कोई भी पहाड़िया चीफ के बाद में विश्वास नहीं करता था अगर वो कंपनी से पैसा ले लेता था। ये पहाड़िया चीफ ने भी पैसा लेने से मना कर दिया और जिसने लिया उसकी क्रेडिबिलिटी जो है बाद में खत्म हो गई।